first, I want to say thanks for allowing us to come and talk with you. It's good to see you again and get to talk with you again. A few years have passed since we talked last time. So 2025 was a big year for Ohio, a big year for you, a big year for Columbus in general. $60 billion budget passed. In that budget, right now, Northwest Ohio, I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of the schools where funding has been an issue. And maybe it's not just Northwest Ohio, it's public schools overall in the country and in Ohio. For example, though, Perrysburg schools, they were going to cut extracurriculars if a levy didn't pass in November. That levy did pass. Now, Toledo Public Schools is looking at a $68 million deficit. They're looking at cutting 100 positions, going down to 4-day school weeks, other restrictions. What do you think in response to that with such an issue with public school funding, and do you think there's a solution?
Well, we fund schools in Ohio primarily two ways. We have the state income tax, which produces most of the state money, and then we send money back to the schools. The other way, of course, is local real estate taxes. And the way the system works is if you're a more affluent school district, you don't get as much money as if you are a less affluent district. Basically, the theory is you can raise the money yourself as opposed to the other school that maybe doesn't really have the capability of doing that. So as long as I can remember, we've been having these discussions about is there enough money going to the schools or not. One of the first things I did when I became governor, I wanted to make sure that we had money set aside for mental health. So we are doing that. We continue to do that. It was one of the things that I heard from the schools. Another thing that we have done is make sure that the schools are, frankly, following the best methods of teaching to read. Reading is the most important thing that we have going. It's the key to success in school, but it's also the key to success in life in general. And while many of our schools were following what we now call the science of reading, some of the schools were not doing it. And some of the teachers have been taught, unfortunately, in our teaching colleges a different way of doing it, which we now know is not the best way. So we've had a really significant effort to turn this around. One of the things we've done is we have given the teachers a stipend in regard to learning the new method. For some, that would be a new method of teaching that. We've also provided money to the schools, well over $100 million total, so they can get the new curriculum. So when we do things like that, and it's a big thing, it's very important, we're providing some of the money to do that. But look, schools and local communities continue, I understand, to struggle. And what we have to do in Columbus, frankly, is how do you balance all the needs? Nothing more important than our kids, nothing more important than that they get a good education. But we're focused also on mental health. We're focused on many different things that we have to take a finite amount of money and decide how that money is going to get spent. That's what the legislature does, and ultimately that, of course, I sign the bill, and I'm the one, of course, who presents the original budget before the discussion even gets started. So,
I think a lot of taxpayers, and you're right, you do have your hand in a lot of different things, mental health and reading, a lot of things that have been priorities for you as governor. I think for taxpayers, though, too, when they see $600 million go towards a Cleveland Browns stadium, and we have schools that are in tens of millions of dollars in debt and people losing their jobs, taxpayers have a hard time swallowing that. And I know the Brown Stadium is a great investment. Could that money have gone to public schools, or are those two different completely entities?
No, I mean, look, the money could have gone to public schools. I mean, the way I wanted to do it, as far as, let's go back a moment. For the last 40 years, the state, whether you agree with it or don't, the state, through its legislature, has given money to stadiums. To either build the stadium or to renovate the stadium. That includes minor league baseball, for example, everything. My idea, understanding that we would probably continue to do that, my idea was frankly to tax the out-of-state gaming interests. And it wouldn't have cost Ohio voters one penny. Legislature did not want to do that. So what the legislature did is that they decided, to take money that where people have not claimed money, and if they've not claimed it for a long, long time, actually take that money, some of that money, and use it for sports stadiums. And so what I insisted on is, no, if you're going to do it, we're not going to just do it for the Browns. We're going to do it for, every sports stadium. So the Mud Hens, for example, would be eligible for it. But it is, that part is a separate bucket. I mean, that is not out of the general fund. That's not out of the general fund that is paid in by taxpayers in regard to income tax. So that is a different fund.
Okay, that's kind of what I had thought.
Yeah, that's a different fund.
Okay. You mentioned a little bit about property taxes. We've done stories about how we had property revaluations in Lucas County. The average hike was 30%. As a homeowner, I saw it too. And I know there is a citizen-led effort to eliminate property taxes right now. Do you think that is a good idea? And do you think there is a different solution out there?
Well, first of all, it's a problem. We have people who have lived in their home long enough to pay their whole mortgage off. They're on a fixed income, they're retired, and yet the neighborhood they're in, the community they live in, the valuation's going up dramatically, and so they see a huge spike. We even have some people who had to move out of their homes because they couldn't afford it. So we had to do something. So I put a working group together. We brought in superintendents to think about the schools, but we also had auditors, we had local people, and they came up with recommendations. That legislature has taken those recommendations and adopted many of them and sent these bills to me. It's 5 separate bills. I'm looking at them now just to make sure I understand everything that's in them. But overall, this is the direction that we have to go. We have to stop the spikes. It's one thing to say inflation. You're going to pay more because of inflation. The schools have less money because of inflation. So you got to take care of that. You got to take care of police. You got to take care of fire. It's something else though when property tax goes up one time 30%. I mean, that is just a kick in the gut. So we have to do something about that. And I'll be again announcing what I'm going to do with those bills. But I think the bills overall are doing would do a good job, and will get rid of that spikes that people are seeing.
You had told the Toledo Blade that, obviously this is your last year as governor, you had told the Toledo Blade that this year you would say there is a sense of urgency. What do you think are the top things that come to mind when you think of things that need to be urgently addressed this year?
Anybody knows me knows I always have a sense of urgency every day. But maybe it speeds up a little bit when I got 13
Your time's ticking.
13 months left to go. Look, I think the most important thing we can do, if you look at the future of Ohio, and this is certainly true with Northwest Ohio, it's true from the Toledo area, we're moving forward with jobs coming in. We have companies coming in. I mean, we're really doing well. We're named #1 in the Midwest by CNBC as far as places to do business. We're #5 nationwide out of 50 states. Site Magazine had us for the last 7 straight years. We've been somewhere in the top 3 of all the states in the country as far as places to go and start a business. So we're doing very, very well. The challenge always is, do we have the people to fill the jobs, and do the people who we have, do they have the training, do they have the education to fill whatever particular job is there? So we have taken a sort of all of the above attitude. The most important thing is what you do early. So in preschool, we've increased state payment of preschool, maybe not as much as I wanted, but we got some of that to increase the number of children who are from poorer families and couldn't have gone to preschool. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library, my wife took that on, spread across the state of Ohio. We now have 412,000 kids get books in the mail every single month, free books from the age of birth until the age of 5. The science of reading, we have taken that across the state of Ohio. We know that that is the best way to teach. And we're pushing it into our schools, and when you talk to teachers, they're excited about it, and I get excited, and my wife gets excited. We've been into 40-some schools, and to see how these teachers who really are doing a great job, how they teach these kids how to sound words out and how to take a part of one word and put it over here with another word, and it's just phenomenal. And so those things we're going to continue to focus on. Another challenge is for people to live up to their full potential, they can't have a drug problem, or they can't have a mental health problem, an untreated mental health problem. So we have really focused, for example, on a lot on mental health. I go back to what John Kennedy said 60 years ago when he signed the Community Mental Health Act. He said, our goal is for every person, no matter what community you live in, to have access to good medical care, particularly in regard to good mental health care. So today, for example, starting on September 2nd, we launched this statewide. If you have a family and you have a child, a teenager who's having a mental health challenge right there, you don't know what to do about it, you can pick up the phone, call 988, and we will have somebody there who is a mental health specialist at your doorstep within an hour. And I don't care where you live, whether you're in Williams County or Ashtabula County, it doesn't matter. You're going to have somebody there. So those are the things that we're going to continue to push and to expand. Something that we're going to start this year, I'm very excited about, we're going to start just in a few days, is to deal with a problem that we've seen, and that is that there are kids in school today who can't see very well. And the reason they can't see very well is because they've not had an eye exam. And so we've picked 15 counties to do a trial program, and we're going out into those 15 counties and go into the schools, work with the schools, so that child who's been flagged as needing an eye exam will actually get an eye exam. Currently, only about a third of them end up getting the eye exam. So this will mean all of them will get the eye exam, and then we'll come back in 3 weeks and they will have the glasses and they'll be on their way. So it's a pretty exciting program, and that we want to get that off to a good start this year. So it's one of the big priorities we have.
Hard to teach the kid how to read if they can't see, right?
Well, it is, and sometimes the kid doesn't know it, and doesn't really fully understand what he or she should be able to see. And the teacher doesn't know, the parent may not know.
Yeah. I just have 2 more questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, sure.
Okay, I know I'm very aware
That's
of
good. Okay.
time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in an interesting place, I think, when it comes to your predecessor. We just had someone announce in Perrysburg that they're entering the ring to run next year. But the 2 people that everyone has their eyes on is Vivek Ramaswamy and then Dr. Amy Acton. Vivek, obviously Republican, your party. Dr. Acton, your former health director. And I did an interview with Dr. Acton in March, marking like 5 years since the pandemic started. And she said you guys still have a good relationship. She said there is no bad blood. Yeah. Do you have any skin on who you would think about endorsing, who you're leaning for, who you would want to replace your seat?
Sure. I've said that I'm a Republican. I'm going to endorse the Republican nominee. It certainly looks today like it's going to be Vivek Ramaswamy. And so what I have done is, he and I have gotten together, I think 3 times in this house, in the governor's residence, and just had long conversations. And I've gotten to know him better, and I want to continue to do that. I really didn't know him very well when this whole thing started. And we want to hear what his vision is. But they've been good meetings, and I have things to share with him, because things that I have seen as governor, and some of the challenges that I see, and some of the things that I think are very important to moving forward for the state of Ohio. So we've shared those conversations. We'll have some more, and then I'm sure I'll have an endorsement. Yeah.
Okay. And then my last question, obviously this is your last year. What would you go back and tell yourself at the beginning as governor that you know now that you didn't know then?
Well, it's kind of interesting. When you get elected governor, you go to what's called a governor school, and they bring the new governors in, and they have governors, current governors, or governors who have been governors in the past from around the country. And the first thing they tell you is, look, it may occur on your first day in office or your last or somewhere in between, but you're going to have a crisis. And I thought crisis, okay, we got tornado in western Ohio, or we've got the flooding along the Ohio River. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of crisis that you normally expect. No one expected COVID. And so I don't know what I would have told myself, but there's always a lot of surprises. I guess that's what I would say to any new governor. There's going to be surprises, and there are going to be some days that you wake up and you have no idea, but at 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock, you're going to have a crisis, and you're going to have to deal with it, and you're going to have to deal with it right away. And so it's an interesting job.
Do we have time?
Yeah, sure.
I guess how would you grade yourself on your time as
Oh, I don't do
governor then?
grades. I'm not going to grade myself.
You're big on school.
Yeah, I'm big on schools. Look, people, people who grade themselves, I'm not going to do that. Look, I've tried to do the best I can. I think we made great progress for Ohio. It's a wonderful state to represent. I've been blessed for many, many years to represent Ohio in many different jobs. So I'm a very, very lucky person. And I continue to enjoy what I do because I find it challenging, and I continue to see areas where we can make a difference. And that's why you run for office. You run for office because you want to make a difference. You see a problem, you see a challenge, you want to go work on that. And that's what makes the job of governor, I think, a very special job. You don't get everything you want, you don't always win, but you get to work on those issues, and many times you can make a big difference.